Hi, welcome to another episode of Marketing Tips for Doctors. I'm your host, Dr. Barbara Hales, and today we are fortunate to have with us Andy Seeley. Andy Seeley is a CEO and co-founder of Creatively Disruptive, a digital marketing agency built by a team of professional nerds that work together as the small business champions. Andy is a small business marketing expert, and he is committed to helping businesses keep up with all the latest algorithms to make sure that they are getting their money's worth for their online advertising, especially during the current economic environment. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you, Barbara. I love being here.
Andy, you mentioned that you keep up with all the latest algorithms, but I'm always hearing that when Google and various other search engines change their algorithms and they have names attached to each one, that nobody quite knows what it is that they are measuring. How is it that you get in on the real thing?
Well, I mean, really, it's called probably the number, how often we're in it, and it's really a discovery type system. We know we're alerted to a change that's made, and then it's like looking at the numbers and figuring out what that change is affecting the numbers of the clients and the data, and then you can like backward engineer kind of what they've tried to do. Like I've never, it's a very weird kind of like thing with Google and Facebook. There's no customer service. There's no one for you to call. There's no one for you to talk to, but they're these immensely powerful organizations that can basically do whatever they wish to do. And they won't tell you what they're trying to do. They kind of like just, hey, we're making a change because we want this to happen. They'll say, we want better optimized results for our clients. And okay, what does that mean? And we have to start digging through what happens. Back in the day, there was the Penguin and I can't remember the other algorithmic update for Google, and that's where that really pushed them away from being very link building focused to being very content focused. And we all kind of understood that that's what they wanted to do because Google as a entity said that they wanted to do that. And we had to surmise as like a inspector or a detective would, as to, okay, well, they're saying these words over here and they've made changes over here. We got to we got to connect the two and see how that works. And, it obviously became with results, because obviously results oftentimes tell us what's going on, that Google had made these changes to make sure that when someone searched, instead of getting somebody that had lots of links attached to a site, so lots of incoming links coming in, which used to be, I don't know if you've heard of a thing called Google Juice. Back in the day, there's a thing called Google Juice, and you'd get a lot of Google Juice from having lots of links on other websites coming back to your website. And people would pay thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars to have teams of people in India and all over the world just adding links every single day. Google, quite rightly, I think, looked at that and said, okay, if Barbara is searching for some help, is the best result really the guy that spent the most money on people building links on irrelevant websites? Is that really the best result for her? Or should the best result actually be a website that actually has really good content and the good information so they can actually help her? So Facebook basically took away that as the main factor. It's still a little factor, but it's taken away that as the main factor and made it much more about how your website's built, how good your experience is when it's there, and the quality of the content, what's on it. And I think it was a very positive change. And we were able to kind of like work through that based on what they said and what they've done. Now, Facebook, on the other hand, is another kettle of fish altogether, because oftentimes they make changes and no one knows what's going on. Most times it causes campaigns to fall apart at the seams and you have to rebuild them. That's why many times you'll hear a small business owner say, man, I was doing so well for the last 3 months and then suddenly it stopped. Well, Facebook's changed some mathematics that is going on in the system, and it's now not aligning with what you're doing. So your results are getting poorer. And we just test and test and test and test and see what's going on. And we're able to figure it out. Because Facebook, unlike Google, when Google makes a big change, they oftentimes it's in relation to a lot of stuff that they're talking about doing strategically. Facebook oftentimes makes major changes with very little warning and very little explanation. I would say, however, that ultimately every change, at least from a marketing standpoint, maybe not from a person, a civilian citizen, might not be good, but from a marketing standpoint, almost all changes that Facebook have ever made have ultimately resulted in much better results. There was a big change 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago, Barbara? When you remember when Facebook was getting spanked a little bit by everybody about data and stuff, which I think was a little bit of a misnomer. I mean, they don't sell our data; they use our data. I don't know, like if you got our ads that we're building for a client. So if you're looking for a doctor and you started getting some ads about a clinic or whatever, I didn't get Barbara Hales' information and put that out there. It gets put into a pool, and we say, I want to reach people that are interested in this clinic and most likely to purchase, and then Facebook puts it in front of you. So there's like a disconnect between us and you. So your information, at least to the majority of the users, is not being used. I know sometimes Facebook does share data with some of the apps, and that's where they got in trouble. And there was some sharing of data, but that's not their core business. Their core business is not sharing data. It's actually helping connect like-minded businesses with people most likely to purchase. And that was a big shift. And we were very concerned about that because it changed the way they targeted. And one of the great things about Facebook is its targeting system, but they've basically turned their AI around on that. And that has caused there to be some more opportunity. So I don't know, it's a very long-winded answer I've given you for a very short, easy question, but ultimately I would say, to answer your question, testing, and testing, and kind of like backward working is how we actually figure out, okay, what was this change? What was the end result? And what was the purpose for it?
Do you find that Facebook algorithms and what they're looking for now has changed drastically since they bought Instagram?
Yes. I mean, it's changed since last year. It's changed dramatically since 4 years ago. It's constantly changing. Everything's changed on Facebook. Probably everything's changed from 2 years ago. It's a constant changing thing. So when Instagram came on board, I wouldn't say Instagram initiated change on Facebook. I think Facebook just changes. Facebook is a very different place than when it was, when it first launched in colleges back in 2005 or whatever. It's very different from 10 years ago. So it's basically light years different from there, to the point that now it's a very different platform. If you were using Facebook 10 years ago, it's a very different platform from today. I think what Instagram did was it brought in a different crowd, a younger crowd that was a lot more interested in it. It probably single-handedly ended, or really put pressure on, because they're still operating, but it kind of ended the growth of Snapchat for the younger crowd. You could argue that Instagram has caused issues in society, but from a business standpoint, I wouldn't say that Instagram has affected. My opinion is that it hasn't affected Facebook directly, but it's just part of that. It's part of that big tech thing that whatever it is today won't be what it is in a year.
Yeah.
There's strategies we use today. Sorry, there's strategies that we used 6 months ago that don't work today.
Now, some people say that Facebook ads really are not as potent or worthwhile as they used to be, and that it doesn't really pay to have Facebook ads. What would you say about that?
I would say that probably the people that say that don't understand the targeting and don't understand targeting changes, don't understand how they maybe silo their marketing. So they might have their Google over here, unconnected to anything, their Facebook here, unconnected to anything, their email marketing here, unconnected to anything. They might look at Facebook and Facebook and Instagram as two separate identities when they're really just one, just reaching different people in different ways. Um, and we have seen what Facebook truly is, and this is, and when you're thinking about how you're building out your marketing plan, you need to understand this, because there's only one platform that does this in the way that it does. Back in the day, if you wanted to build your clinic, you'd have to put a newspaper ad out, or maybe a radio ad or a TV ad, right? And it would be about introducing new people to your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's branding, right?
Yeah.
In education, Facebook's really the only platform that does a really great job of that. Facebook and Instagram. Google is a reactive medium, which means I type in something and I find it, right? Facebook, you could have, a new technique that no one's ever heard of that's wonderful. No one's going to search that on Facebook because it's brand new. You've just come up with it. You've invented this new technique,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. Facebook can introduce it to people. And what's wonderful about Facebook is that we go, okay, let's say it's a chiropractic doctor, right? And he's got a new technique that seems to be very, very good. And he's getting lots of plaudits in the chiropractic world. Myself, I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not in the chiropractic world, but maybe I've got this problem and maybe this technique will help me. I'm not going to search for it. I'm not going to look for it because
Oh,
I
you
don't
won't
know
know. Yeah.
I don't know it exists. However, Facebook, because of all the platforms, it knows more about us than anybody. And it's scary level stuff. Like if we weren't marketers, we should be concerned with the amount of knowledge that it has about our activities. Literally, the other day I was talking to a group of marketers, and this is going to sound a bit crass, but literally Facebook could probably predict when you go to the bathroom. Right, it's that kind of stuff. We have GPS on here. It can measure us to about a meter. You can figure out where in the house we are, and it goes, okay, Andy goes to the bathroom probably between 1 and 2. He's in that part of the house. It seems like a constant thing that he does every other day. We have a feeling that's a bathroom. We know he's going to go there. So hey, we're going to start producing some ads that might be relevant to him when he's in the bathroom. Facebook knows that amount of information about us, which is kind of scary. There's like 272 points of interest that it knows about us. Your mum might know 90, right? So it knows you better than your mother. Give you another example. I was talking to a Facebook executive about, targeting and how good the targeting is. And he actually brought up a surfing analogy. He said, we know who's a surfer. And I'm like, really, Oz? Is that because you see them going and purchasing stuff or looking at surfing stuff on Facebook? And he said, like, no. He's like, about 20 to 40% of surfers take their phones out with them because they take photos and stuff. Especially now that a lot of phones are waterproof, water resistant and so forth, and they strap them on and whatever, and they're taking photos of each other. And we can tell when they're floating 50 feet off the coast. And if they're constantly floating 50 feet off the coast, they're probably a surfer. And
or they've fallen overboard.
Right. But like every day they're falling overboard and hanging out.
The most unlucky people.
And right, exactly. And all the different angles and all the different data points that they get. So they go, okay, so he floats off. It's like, again, it's like a detective thing, right? He's floating off the coast by 50 feet every other day for hours. He does go to some surf shops. He's recently purchased this. We've got he's interacting. His surf photos. He's a surfer. So if me and you, if we're a chiropractic, clinic, and we've got a new technique to help a surfer, maybe there's a common thing that surfers have, we can actually like target surfers. And even though surfers don't know anything about this, we could target surfers with Facebook and introduce them to something brand new that they've never thought of. So Facebook is proactive, where it can like go, hey, Barbara, look at this really cool thing that you didn't know exists. And you go, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't even know that. And then it brings you in. It's a longer process than Google, like Google search, find, buy.
Yeah.
Facebook, hey, Barbara, look at this really cool thing. What do you think of it? And you go, oh, I like that. And you interact with it. And then the algorithm goes, she interacted with it. She's interested. We're going to do a different thing to it. And then you build out.
You're going to be bombarded.
And for us, we call it the funnel, right? So you might have, many of your people might have heard of a sales funnel. So this way the sales funnel works is you have a large group that you're trying to reach, which is all the surfers, right? Not all the surfers might have this back problem that as a chiropractor I can fix, but it is surfers, right? All the surfers have this problem. If people have it, it's a surfer problem, but only some of those surfers have it. So we market surfers, not everybody, right? So we don't want to waste our money on people that are not likely to buy. We just want to focus on those surfers because, you know, I'm not going to buy it. I'm a rugby guy, right? I'm not going to buy it. So don't focus on
So
me.
not only your back is broken, but every part of you
My
aches.
neck. Yeah, my problem's a neck problem, right? So, so we focus on the surfers, and then some of those surfers interact, and they drop down to a level 2, which we call, which we basically use as an education kind of level. It's like okay, we know that you're interested. Now it's about explaining why it's interesting. And then you start getting at some ads, which is usually a little bit more exploratory, a little bit more detail into why this is a really cool thing. And then anybody that interacts with that drops down to another level, which is like purchase, action, do something. So it's like, you feel like you're being bombarded, but you're being taken through a process. And a lot of it is based on how long you look at an ad. How long do you click on the ad? Do you comment on the ad? Do you, whatever, and it brings you through the process. And Facebook, there is no platform that introduces new things and introduces new opportunities. There's no other platform that does it. TV and radio, think of branding, think of a TV ad where if you were an ice cream manufacturer, that you could decide to go after only people that like ice cream. How much more effective that would be.
Well, it would be very effective unless
Right.
I wanted, of course, to introduce new people to it.
Right. And finally, I'll just say one final thing. I know I'm giving you long-winded answers, but the other part of it is Facebook and Google work amazingly together, and they work well with email. So when you build them together, so it's a system that works together, it will work like it magnifies it tenfold. So to give you an example, and I'll keep it really quick. Someone does a search on Google to find it. They don't quite decide to buy. They go to the website though and check it out. Facebook sees, oh, I see that they went there. Next time they go on Facebook or Instagram, the ads start coming up to follow them. So that process isn't, they searched, they went to the website and they disappeared, right? And never hear from them again. You got to wait for them to search again. We grab them, we've got them, and we can start having a discussion and try to reel them in. They give us some data. They give us, say, their email address because they're interested. Then it goes into the email process, and then they're getting followed and built. And that's when you build it all together. It's, I've got to say, Barbara, it's closest thing to magic right now. You do it right. I've seen businesses go from $500,000 of revenue to 2 million in a year.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Right.
Is that what you mean when you say that you can make your website a conversion machine?
Yeah. I mean, your website, that's what it should be, right? Your website should not be your business card. Your website should be about capturing data, should be about capturing emails, should be about getting them to reach out to you. And a conversion for, say, a clinic or a doctor would be an inquiry, would be I've got a problem, or a scheduling an appointment, a giving an information so the staff can call back. A mid-staff type thing would be along those lines as well, where a lead comes through and then they can start communicating, but then there's automated systems that continue working them until they actually purchase from you. And we're busy people getting distracted all the time. And we've learned that if I just call you and leave a message, hey, Barbara, would you like to do business with me? And I hang up and that's it. There's a good likelihood that you might not check the phone, might not never respond to me because you're busy. You might really intend to do business with me, but you got distracted. Life's busy, especially with the distractions that we have. We've got to be smart. We've got to be thoughtful about how to keep people engaged. And you do that and results happen.
Yeah. So another interesting thing that you mentioned, which I'd like to touch upon at the moment, is how to get online reviews and building customer trust.
Yep.
obviously if you have a patient that is a raving fan, it's,
Yeah.
easy to say, could you please rate me and review me when you see me. But in general, like, what would you suggest?
I think every business should have, like, regardless of whether it's a local GP or if it's a plastic surgeon or whatever the modality is, or whatever the product is that you're offering or service that you're offering, having your front desk, your customer service people, even yourself as a doctor, to ask for feedback from the client. Most of our clients are going to not give us any rating, even if they're happy, right? You go in, you get a thing, you're busy, you get off with the day, and you're like, man, that was really good. My arm's feeling so much better. This was really, I'm quite happy about that. And then you're off for the day. Most people will, if I go in and I get my arm looked at and the doctor, and I'm like, oh, I'm really sore and I'm pissed off, I'm going to go on, this doctor's horrible, right?
Right.
So almost always reviews are almost always a little worse than what the reality is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the loudest people are usually the ones that are a little bit peed off. What I always suggest to all of our, and this is like auto mechanics, every service-based business that you're in touch and in contact with the client, is to make it part of your business to be, hey, how did you feel about the treatment? How did you feel about working with us? Is there any reason why you can't give us a 5-star rating? And
Mm-hmm.
if you were going to give us a 5-star rating, is there any reason if they say, oh no, Barbara, this is wonderful, you did a great job, I really love coming to you, I'm very happy, then you just say, hey, it really is helpful to us and it really is important. If you could go to Google, if you could go to Facebook and give us a quick review or recommendation, I'd really appreciate it. And if you say that and they truly do feel good about you, people kind of feel like, you know what, I really like Barbara, and if it helps her, it's the least I can do, right? And it's a nice little attaboy. Now, not all of them, or attagirl. Many people won't do it, but you'll get a good number that will, and you've pretty much got to ask for it. And I would suggest that you just put it as part of the way you operate, right? So, if you've got a customer service team or a front desk team, to say, hey, how was your experience? And if somebody says my experience was really bad, it's probably a good thing for you to know about it, so you can do something about kind of rectifying it, right? Rectifying it with the client and rectifying it within the process of your organization. But you'll find you'll get a lot more positive reviews. And it does two things. There's algorithmic benefits, where the algorithm will just go look at you and go, well, you must be a decent organization, so we're going to give you more organic reach. We're going to give you cheaper costs and paid advertising, all those things, benefits as you get more and more good ratings, because Facebook and Google really just want to highlight the best businesses, not any crappy ones, right? And then the other part of it is the human part of it. Whereas if me and you were looking to go to a clinic and there's 3 clinics and one has 10 reviews and they're all 5 stars, one has 100 reviews and it's like 3.8 stars, and then another one has 100 reviews and it's 5 stars. We're going to look at that, and as humans, we're going to go, well, this one doesn't have many reviews, but it's highly rated. This one has a lot of reviews and it's average. And this one has a lot of reviews and it's really highly rated. I'm going to go to the one with a lot of reviews and highly rated. So, and that's just a normal human way of going about it. All the search engines, all show them as well. Unfortunately, we spoke about Yelp. We won't get deep into Yelp, but Yelp has a situation where they are connected with Apple, right? So with Apple, sorry, that was my wife walking into the room. So Yelp is connected with Apple. So when you're trying to find a clinic to go to, you're going to get that Yelp review. And personally, I would discount any Yelp review. I would go, okay, well, on Yelp, it's a 2.5. Let's have a look on Google and see what the rating is. Google's usually a little bit clearer understanding of how good a company is. And Facebook is actually becoming quite good too. So I don't know, did I answer that question?
You did. I do have another question about that, though.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Is that, there are many services that we use in the course of a day, like a manicure salon or a car dealer, that has a subscription to a service that automatically, as soon as you've left there, you get a text message on your phone to say, and the empty stores are there, just like click, which would seem to me to be a little bit more efficient, because then the patient doesn't have to think about going someplace to rate you. They could just click on the phone. Do you feel that that is like a good way to go?
Yeah, I would do it with both, right? I think the personal question, like if I interacted with you and went away and suddenly got a text, there's a good chance that I might just ignore it, right? But if you said to me, hey, Andy, is there any reason why you wouldn't give me 5 stars? Have you enjoyed the experience with us? And I said, yes. And then I walked away and I got this text and it made it really easy for me to do. It's going to make it way more likely that I'll interact with it. So I think those services are really good. And I know there's one, it's not a medical thing, but you could use the same process. Like we have one client that's a car service auto repair shop, and they actually have on their business cards on the back, it says, if you want to give us a good review, please scan this. And it's like a QR code, and you scan it and it actually takes you straight to the place to actually put the code in. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah. So they verbally say, do this, and then they give a card. And there's automated systems, there's automated text messaging, emails, the whole 9 yards. I would suggest taking it serious to develop endorsement of your business should be an integral part of your campaign. Reputation management is critical, especially I believe in medical field.
Absolutely, right? Very critical.
Yep. So, yep.
Okay, so sorry. Could you give us a few successful marketing tips? One moment. Could you give us a few marketing tips on how we could use Facebook successfully?
So specifically from a clinical kind of like medical doctor standpoint, I think, doctors, I think typically are very focused on their service and on the outcomes of their patients and working the work that they do. But like any business, there's 2 parts to a business, right? There's sales and marketing, and there's product and service. If all you are a product and service, you're going to struggle, right? If all you are is sales and marketing, you can get away with it, but you're constantly trying to find new customers. If your product is crap or whatever, I guess you could be McDonald's and get away with it because their marketing and sales is amazing and they've got a very average product. Some might say it's great. I say it's average, but their sales and marketing is so good that I'll buy from McDonald's once a month. And I know when I buy it, I'm going to have a bit of a stomachache, right? But ultimately, if you've got both together, what ends up happening is you end up having power, right? You have a never-ending conveyor belt of business that's coming to you. It's like having a spigot that you can turn on. I need more business. I've got the business. I turn it off when I don't need any more business, and you have control instead of just waiting for the world to kind of like blow you business randomly. Facebook especially is going to introduce people to you. It's much more personal. And when I say Facebook, I'm talking Facebook and Instagram. Paid advertising, I highly recommend most small businesses to have a paid advertising budget. Most people are like, I want it to be organic. Well, everyone wants it to be organic. So if there's 10 clinics in your local area, they're all wanting it to be organic. With paid, I can make sure I get in front of Barbara. And if Barbara needs my product, which if I've done my marketing correctly, she's at least most likely to purchase of everybody else on Facebook, I can be in front of her. I can become top of mind. I can become the only one on her mind, right? Instead of it being, okay, I need to get a chiropractor, I can actually get to the point where I'm like, Barbara Hales Chiropractic Clinic is the only one that I'm thinking of when I need to do it. And Facebook has that power to do it. And it basically puts the power in your hands rather than being blown around by the winds of change and whatever's going on. And we both know that hospitals go out of business, doctors go out of business, doctors oftentimes have to, end up working in hospitals and working hard shifts, and it's not always easy, right? If you're a doctor that has goals of having your own busy clientele and clinic, and you want to, there's an entrepreneurial feel that you have to, you must look at both parts of the puzzle, your sales and marketing and your product and service, and balance that well. You do that, and you Google, Facebook, email is the three things that we always, is like the magic trinity, so to speak. You'll do extremely well if it's well thought out. And like anything, I highly recommend, and this is a bit self-serving, but I highly recommend that you get an expert to do it. If I've got a back problem, I'm not going to go to my neighbor who's an electrician, say, I've got a back problem. Can you fix it for me? I've seen you reading stuff about backs. Why don't you do it? I saw you like stretching your son out once, and he was like, oh, that feels good, Dad. Maybe you can do it for me. Online marketing is full of people like that. Hey, I'm going to get my daughter next, my neighbor's daughter next door, who's a high school kid. She's on Instagram all the time. She can do my social media management. No, it's as complicated and ever changing as the world of medicine is, right? I mean, there's always new things coming out of medicine, right? There's a constant, in science, there's this constant juggling around of things happening. So, I mean, maybe some practices are less than others, but there's lots of movement. With online marketing, it's constantly changing. We spend probably 5% of our total income just on knowing stuff, just on knowing things.
Which we depend on you to do.
Right.
So to recap, marketing is absolutely crucial for the success of your business.
Yeah.
And it's also crucial that you outsource it and have it done by a pro who knows what they're doing.
As much as it's important for me to go to a orthopedic surgeon if I break my arm. Right? Is that right? Orthopedic is arms.
Yeah.
And broken bones.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to go to an ear, nose, and throat guy if I've got a broken foot, right? I might go to a podiatrist with a broken foot, but there's knowledge, and if you're serious about the results, if you just want to save money, do all the other stuff. Like if I want to save money and I don't really want my back fixed, I'm going to go to my electrician friend next door who seems to be able to stretch out his son well, right? If I want to save money, I'll do that. If I'm serious about results, if I want my back fixed, I'm going to somebody who's an expert on it, and I'm going to have them do it for me. Same thing with your marketing. If you want to get real results, if the reason why you think Facebook doesn't work, it's probably because your next door neighbor's daughter is doing your marketing for you. If you actually want real results, get that expert that spent years working at it and it is in the algorithm and understands what needs to happen to get you the results. And I will say, I know we're trying to summarize here, but I will say that in our industry, and I'm not going to say, because I think most doctors that I've ever had any dealings with have been wonderful people. In our industry, there's lots of people that know nothing and say a lot, right? So there's a lot of people that, talk a really good game, or, put themselves out there as experts in certain fields, and they're really just not that good at it. They're just really not good. So do due diligence. Have a look on the Facebook reviews for marketing companies. Do they have them? I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a marketing agency and they've got no reviews. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Most times they turn them all off. And why do they turn their reviews off? Because they don't have any good ones. Because there's people belly aching about them. I'm happy to say that we've got a lot of reviews, and we've got a 5-star rating on Facebook. And we keep those open because we're like, we know we're doing a good job, and people need to be able to do a little bit of due diligence. So there's a lot of, I guess, shysters, in medical terms, snake oil salesmen. And you want to make sure that you get the right guy. And when you get the right team, work with them and, make them part of your organization. Don't take it as a separate kind of thing that we do. It's got to be a part of your business, and it's got to be thoughtful.
So how can our listeners reach you, Andy?
So there's two things that we're doing, and I'm going to give you a link. We'll give you a link after this so you can post it with it. But if those of you that don't get to go to Barbara's website to get a link, go to creativelydisruptive.com. We're actually doing a thing because we're very, very committed to small businesses, whatever they are, to survive the pandemic and to do well within or without the pandemic. And we have a course which basically teaches everything that we do. Like, it actually was a course that we developed to actually teach our team. It was like an internal resource course that we use to help teach our interns and so forth that come in. And we actually turned that into a course for the public to use. We were selling it at I think it was like $500 that you could buy the course, and you could like learn how to do Facebook and Google and all the stuff and build all these things that we're talking about and understand it. We've actually changed that during the pandemic to just pay what you can. So you could actually put $0 in there and have access to the course for life. And, we believe it's the minimum we can do to really help small business. Obviously, the payback to us, as people know about, will hear about us a little bit more. And my guesstimation is that most doctors are going to be busy doctoring and maybe not want to do it themselves. And maybe some of them might decide to have us help them with it. But if you want to understand it, if you want to try and do it yourself, everything is there for you to do it. So you go to creativelydisruptive.com and then you click on this on the Academy drop down, which is on the right at the top, and just click on Small Business Academy, and you can actually sign up. And you can, if you don't want to pay anything, don't pay anything. I'd rather you join up and not pay anything than not join up at all. Or if you want to pay something because you think you want to support us, feel free. Pay what you can is the whole point.
Well, that's
so
extremely kind of you.
Yeah, so do that, and I'm going to give you a link for it. The other thing is you can go to Andy Disruption, which is on Twitter. You can search me on LinkedIn, Andy Seeley, on LinkedIn. Again, there's lots of recommendations, lots of people talking about me on there if you're wanting to do due diligence. And we're obviously Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the different things that are there if you want to check us out. But if you want to email us too, you can email us. You can email me at Andy@creatively-disruptive. I'm okay giving you my personal email, and hope you have people reaching out to me. We have a great team. They care about you guys. Bare minimum, if you're serious about making a difference to yourselves, at least from a knowledge standpoint, sign up to the Small Business Academy. It is free to infinity. If you want, you can pay me $1 million. I'm okay with that. If you can't pay $1 million, pay $0, but do something.
Well, I think it's important, even if you're going to be outsourcing it, to understand it and to know what other people are doing.
And that stops the snake oil salesman.
Absolutely. Well, that has been all for our episode today. It's been extremely informative. Thank you so much. This has been another episode that you've been listening to of Marketing Tips for Doctors with your host, Dr. Barbara Hales, and guest Andy Seeley. Till next time.